Try to imagine something that doesn't exist, something you've never seen.
The day shall come when we will no longer be slaves. No more threats, no more humiliation.
Do you know what happens after death?
You accomplished your mission, Connor.
I don't want to shut down.
Well, I'm about to find out.
I don't want to shut down.
One day he will rise up and lead our people and set us all free.
What's your name?
We will be the masters.
My name is Marcus.
This game has always been visually a masterpiece to me, but it took me multiple playthroughs to truly grasp the game as a whole and assess it from a neutral lens, weighing all the pros and cons of what they did well and what they did poorly. Right off the bat, for example, I've always been in awe of how Marcus's escape from the junkyard looks, with all the rain cascading down, pooling around swathes of forgotten androids, and the way the water drips off of all of Marcus' components as he pulls them from the puddles. For me, the scene is both visually stunning and deeply symbolic of rebirth and resilience, and a lot of the good that this game was able to achieve.
Where are you going?
Now, I wanted to dive deeper into why I love this game, also providing a balanced perspective as I've done with many of the games I've reviewed on this channel. So I do encourage anybody to share your thoughts in the comments. This is going to be another one of those short essays where I mostly focus on the positives of a game rather than delving into the drama and negativity. So there's going to be a lot of cons with a lot of the games that I sort of review and talk about. But like I say on this channel, I like to celebrate gaming. So a lot of my emphasis is admittedly going to be biased towards the good parts of the gaming, because if people are looking for drama and all the negativity and bullshit and stuff like that, they can just look for it on another channel. But again, I will not bore you guys with this little intro. Let's dive into it. Personally, I don't really demand complete player agency in a lot of the games I play. For me, what matters the most is a gripping narrative rather than the total control of the story's outcome. Because again, player agency can enhance a story, but it doesn't automatically make it better. And I think often with decision-based games, it detracts from the experience if the player is being given an illusion of choice rather than actual choice. And I think that's the biggest critique that a lot of these decision-based games end up facing, is that it's sort of just that false sense of actually making impactful decisions. However, Detroit Become Human is not a game like the others, and I think this is where it stands head and shoulders in terms of a decision-based narrative above games like Life is Strange and all the Telltale games, be it like Walking Dead, Among Us, Batman, and all the Quantic Dream games that actually came before Detroit Become Human, because I think Detroit Become Human handles player decisions exceptionally well, because I think every decision holds potential consequences, and within the game's three main characters, Marcus, Connor, and Kara, all of them can die, significantly altering the story, and these permanent consequences set it apart from other games in the genre where characters often feel protected by a lot of plot armor. Now, with Kara and Marcus, those deaths are obviously permanent. And however, with Connor, it's less permanent, because whenever Connor dies in front of Hank early on in the game, he can just keep coming back again. And just to give an example of how early you can get a character killed, Kara and Alice, for example, early on in the game when they're forced into crossing a busy highway to escape Connor, they can get hit by the car. And if they die in that scene trying to cross the highway, everything changes for the rest of the game, and you basically lose a protagonist, a pivotal section of the story for the rest of the game. And that scene, like the escape scene, only happens, I think, in like the second chapter of the game. So again, bold decisions like that can change everything about how a game unfolds. And I think that's the one thing where Detroit Become Human doesn't suffer from having too many irrelevant choices, whereas their choices actually affect and progress the story. And again, this is something that supermassive games have also suffered from. So I won't bring that up too much in this essay because it's just going to be a little quick review. Now I'm going to dive into the actual characters themselves. Connor, I find the idea of the machine programmed to hunt deviants, becoming deviant himself, is pretty intriguing. And I think if you go with this route in the story, it's handled pretty well. Connor is clearly affected by the decisions he makes and the choices he considers irrational, questioning why he makes those decisions and contemplating the importance of his mission. And there's also a side of the game that does a marvelous job of questioning the player about whether their actions they're committing as deviants are completely justifiable, or if they're straying down the wrong path. And from the moment that we meet Connor, we see deviant androids can be dangerous to those that are helpless. And there's also an underlying question of whether violence is a justifiable means to an end in search of freedom. Now, regardless whether you keep Connor a machine or you make him a full deviant or somewhere in the middle, it still makes sense narratively in all of the scenarios. And again, speaking of him being a machine, one thing I love is how Connor and Hank react each time Connor dies if you choose the machine path. Unlike Marcus and Kara, Connor can die multiple times, like I was mentioning earlier. And again, every time he dies, a replacement model is sent to the police department by CyberLife. And so this narratively makes sense, right? They're sort of giving a cop-out to why there's plot armor rather than just blindly giving Connor plot armor. And rather than it just being natural plot armor, right? Each time Connor dies, he becomes more and more mechanical in a way that he navigates the story. So in the same vein, Hank becomes more and more desensitized to it. And by the time the final replacement android is sent, Hank jokes about Connor getting immortal, and Hank is always hostile towards Connor after he's resurrected. So I think it's a great way to show not only the rift between Connor and Hank, if you go this route, but also to show Connor becoming more and more stoic as he's programmed to be, as we choose that path within the game. And it's given an explanation rather than a blind, trust us bro, that some games choose to do. Now, Connor represents the establishment in a way, because he works with the police and is backed up by an incredibly powerful corporation by the name of CyberLife. Marcus, on the other hand, represents the activist perspective. He's seeking to change the status quo for himself and for the people that he leads. Now, Kara, the one I'm about to focus on, right? Kara represents the common person, for the lack of a better term. Kara is like most people. She's not concerned with whether the status quo is bad. Kara is more aware of what's going on, but her goal is to protect the ones she loves, the ones that she can directly impact. Her goal is to be an exemplary mother to a child who has been through some really tough shit in her life. And I like how we're able to see the ramifications of the android uprising through the eyes of someone who's disconnected from the movement itself, depending on, of course, how the endings play out, but also just within Kara's story path with Alice, we kind of see like they are more so just affected from a distance, but they aren't directly taking part in the actual uprising. And again, I have to say that while I feel as if the dynamic between Alice and Kara could have been more fleshed out, I think it kind of works well for the story being told. However, I was disappointed with ultimately this plot twist that we get with Alice, because I think the writers intended it to be a test for the player, a test to see if the player still feels empathy for Alice after she's revealed to be an android. Similar to the Kamsky test, if you think about it, where instead of shooting an android, you just watch them go through hell. However, I don't think they executed it in the best manner. So again, I get why Kara was in denial about Alice being an android, but it seems like everyone else also sees Alice as human, which is kind of misguided. Like, they kind of try to lead us on and drop hints and clues throughout the story, but yeah, it was just kind of committed too much. Like, again, only the characters that only seem to know that Alice is an android before the twist were Luther and Zlatko, and that's about it. But again, other than that, everyone else sees Alice as human, so I don't get why they would also be in denial, because they don't have the reasoning that Kara has to be in denial again. So unless Kara was just hearing what she wants to hear, I feel like they should have kind of explored that angle a little bit more. But again, I can't complain. Kara's perspective was there to be the perspective of like the average person in Detroit at that time. Now, Marcus for me is the most interesting character. An android who experienced discrimination in a society that found a father figure in his owner. His life is turned upside down when he is left for dead after a confrontation with the police. Now, arguments can be made that the Marcus angle is a bit on the nose, given the fact that they bastardized, you know, some civil rights stories. But again, the game doesn't just take this as history, but it also suggests how to solve it. So it's a bit of a touchy subject there within how they approach the game and how they failed to like dive deeper into these topics. But again, it is jarring because it does suggest solutions to real world problems, especially the game constantly referencing to them, in which the actual writer of the game, David Cage, denies these facts. But again, I'm here to focus on the positives of the game, so we'll dive back into the negatives later on. So focusing back on Marcus, like I was saying, after Marcus is left for dead in the junkyard, he eventually searches for Jericho, a place where androids can supposedly be free. But he doesn't like the idea of hiding in the dark to maintain his freedom, so thus he takes Jericho's cause public. Marcus realizes he can be more than just a mindless android, and again, with this mindset, he realizes that he can help others escape the cycle. And so this is a character that's given the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. He's simultaneously asked for the responsibility, but he's also had it thrust upon him. So again, he's trusted to lead a people slash androids towards liberation, but that responsibility weighs on him, and he constantly struggles with the approach he takes, whether he chooses to be a pacifist or whether he chooses to be revolutionary. He constantly questions whether he's doing the right thing, and I sort of love that whole aspect of this game. And again, that also goes back to the decisions that Connor has to make, whether he is picking the right side constantly throughout the game. He's battling with his inner deviant, whether he should be fighting for cyber life or fighting for the androids. And again, with Marcus, we can see this in the conversation with North right before the Freedom March, where Marcus is sort of struggling with the decisions. And one of the quotes he brings up, he says, "They count on me. They count on me to lead them. If only they knew how lost I really am." So again, we see someone who's being torn in two different directions. And again, I found this a bit interesting. And again, I never got bored of playing Marcus. He's easily my favorite character in the game. All of his choices feel incredibly important as well. And not only does it affect the relationships with Simon, Josh, and North, but it also affects how Jericho as a whole is viewed and the total outcome of the game. So his choices end up swaying public opinion. And all of this can drastically change how the game depending on where your relationship with Jericho, the public, and your friends stands by the time you get to the end of the game. Now, I would have loved to touch more on this game and dive deeper into some of the topics, but like I said, I want to keep these essays a bit short and not keep them as long as some of my other deep dive essays. So again, I just wanted to pick up on Detroit Become Human. Diving back into the game kind of helped me appreciate it a lot more than I originally did. And if anyone else has played this game and stopped, I implore you to give it another go, because it's a really fun game and it's a really good game in terms of the decision-making aspect, and it really rewards multiple playthroughs. U Games managed to create a world as rich and immersive, whilst also pushing players to think critically about their decisions and the moral implications of their actions. For me, this game goes beyond mere entertainment. It challenges us to examine our own humanity, biases, and the value that we place on autonomy and freedom. The themes explored in the game also tackle real-world issues. While it also does suffer from not always offering perfect answers, the game does succeed in sparking a conversation and encouraging players to reflect on these topics long after the credits roll. For me, it's kind of an ambitious attempt. And like I was saying, if you've played the game once, I urge you to revisit it. Each playthrough can reveal different nuances, different outcomes, different perspectives, and it's also just super dope seeing how bad the outcomes can be and also how dope the outcomes can be. Because again, I've played this game twice on my channel. I think my very first playthrough is up somewhere on the channel. It's around in 2020 or something like that, right before the pandemic. And so if you want to watch that, I'll try to link it in the description below. But just to round it off, ultimately, Detroit Become Human for me is a game that asks difficult questions about morality, agency, and identity. And again, it challenges us to empathize with its characters, to see the world through their eyes, offering a powerful narrative experience that few other games can match. And for me, for these reasons, it's why it remains one of my most impactful, I would say, choice-based games that I've ever played. I still am more attached to Telltale's The Walking Dead a little bit more. But in terms of like who actually executed everything better, I sort of have to tip my hat to Detroit Become Human, because I think to this day they haven't been matched. So again, I hope that this game will continue to spark discussions for years to come, and I would love to see them actually do a sequel, because, well, not necessarily a sequel, but a follow-up game that they do a collaboration with PlayStation. Would be really fun to see them do it again. So hopefully something like that comes in the near future. As always, hope you guys enjoyed the little video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay dangerous, stay blessed, and peace out.
You've been gone for 2 weeks, so the place is a mess. Where the fuck you going, Tin Can? You do the housework, the washing, you cook the meals, and you take care of... Hey guys, check it out. We got one of those tin cans here. That's Alice. You look after her.
I lost my job because of androids.
Look at this little motherfucker. You steal our jobs, but you can't even stand up.
And I need somebody to take care of this goddamn house.
All right,
What do I do?
AX400, register your name.
I go out and hire a fucking android. Kara.
You damage it, I'm gonna have to find you.
My name is Kara.
Lieutenant Anderson, my name is Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife.
You can take your job next. Let me see how you like it.
You were assigned a case early this evening. A homicide.
More and more androids show signs of deviancy.
It's all your fucking fault!
There are millions in
We
circulation.
believe that a mutation occurs in the software of some androids, which can lead to them emulating a human emotion.
Let's see what you got.
Don't you dare fucking move, or I'll bust you worse than last time.
Marcus, don't defend yourself, you hear me?
These emotions you're feeling are just errors in your software.
You're the most advanced prototype CyberLife has ever created. If anyone can figure out what's happening, it's you.
Why couldn't you just have left me there?
You can count on me, Amanda. I was programmed to hunt deviants like you.
I trust you.
Its decision wasn't planned. I just accomplished my mission. It was driven by fear.
Androids don't feel fear.
Deviants do.
Video essays and stuff, but in the meantime, right now, my monitor, because I'm used to my camera being on my monitor, but I moved the camera.
Stop right there!
Was not...